The old mansion stood on a hill overlooking the town. Locals told tales, stories of it being cursed. Whispers of strange noises and ghostly apparitions filled the air whenever the mansion was mentioned. It had been empty for as long as anyone could remember. Generations had passed and still the mansion remained untouched, a relic of a forgotten time. No one dared to go near it, not after dark. The shadows seemed to grow longer and the air colder as the sun dipped below the horizon, not even during the day. The mansion's ominous presence was felt even under the bright light of the sun. The windows were boarded up, the paint was peeling. The once grand structure now stood as a decaying monument to its own history. The air around it was heavy. A thick mist often clung to the ground, adding to the mansion's eerie allure. It was as if the house itself was breathing. The creaks and groans of the old wood seemed almost alive, a sigh of despair. The wind carried with it the echoes of a long-forgotten sorrow. One hot summer night, I decided to explore. The curiosity that had been building inside me for years finally overcame my fear. The stories had fascinated me for years, each tale more intriguing than the last, each one pulling me closer to the mansion. I'd always been drawn to the unknown. The mysteries of the mansion were too compelling to resist. As I approached the house, the hair on my arm stood on end. A chill ran down my spine, but I pressed on. The feeling of dread washed over me. I ignored it. My curiosity was stronger than my fear. The front door creaked open as if inviting me in. The sound echoed through the empty halls, a haunting welcome. The air inside was stale and cold. It felt as though time had stopped within these walls. Dust particles danced in the faint moonlight that sliced through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. Each particle seemed to tell a story of neglect and abandonment. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. The shadows seemed to move, playing tricks on my mind. As they did, I noticed them. 3 mirrors. Their presence was unsettling, as if they were watching me. They stood in separate rooms, covered in sheets. They called to me. Each one seemed to whisper secrets of the past, beckoning me to uncover their mysteries. The first mirror was in the parlor. The sheet covering it was yellowed with age. Hesitantly, I reached out and pulled it away. The mirror was ornate. Its silver frame was etched with what looked like faces frozen in expressions of terror. As I gazed into its depths, my reflection stared back, but something was wrong. My reflection began to move on its own. It mimicked my movements at first, but then it changed. My reflection smiled, a cruel, malicious grin that sent shivers down my spine. I stumbled back in horror. Who was this? What was this place? Fear choked me, but I couldn't look away. I fled the room, my heart pounding in my chest. The darkness seemed to close in around me, suffocating and relentless. Every shadow felt like it was reaching out, trying to pull me back into the abyss I had just escaped. I found myself in a long hallway. The walls were lined with old faded wallpaper, peeling at the edges, and the air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay. Each step echoed ominously, amplifying my fear. At the end of the hallway stood the second mirror. It loomed there, almost as if it were waiting for me, its presence both inviting and foreboding. Drawn to it, I approached cautiously. My footsteps felt heavy, as if the very air was trying to hold me back. The closer I got, the more I felt an inexplicable pull, a magnetic force that I couldn't resist. This mirror was simpler, framed in dark wood. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with intricate carvings that seemed to tell a story of their own, a story lost to time. Its surface was clouded, as if a thin layer of smoke swirled just beneath. The mist moved in hypnotic patterns, drawing me deeper into its mysterious depths. I could see figures moving within the smoke. They were not just shadows, but entities with a life of their own, shifting and writhing as if trapped in an eternal dance. They were tall and slender, with long, sharp fingers. Their movements were fluid, almost graceful, yet there was an underlying menace in the way they twisted and turned. Their eyes glowed with a sinister light. It was a cold, piercing gaze that seemed to see right through me, stripping away my defenses and leaving me exposed. They didn't seem to notice me. Their focus was entirely on the mirror, as if it held some secret or power that they were desperate to uncover. They were too preoccupied with whatever lay beyond the mirror's surface. Their obsession was palpable, a hunger that drove them to ignore everything else. I watched in terror as one of the creatures reached out from the mirror. Its hand moved slowly, deliberately, as if testing the boundaries between our worlds. Its long, bony fingers scraped against the glass. The sound was a chilling reminder of the thin barrier that separated me from the horrors within. I knew then that I had to get out of that house. The realization hit me like a bolt of lightning, and I turned and ran, my only thought to escape the darkness that threatened to consume me. I ran through the house, my mind racing. I could hear footsteps behind me. Whispers followed me. I didn't dare look back. I burst into a room at the end of the hall. In the center of the room stood the third mirror. It was tall and narrow, framed in what looked like bone. As I stumbled towards it, I tripped and fell. My reflection stared back up at me, but this time it was different. It looked real, too real. I reached out to touch it, and my fingers sank into the glass. It was cold and smooth, like ice. I tried to pull my hand back, but I couldn't. I was trapped. Section 5, the connection. The whispers grew louder. They swirled around me, pulling me deeper into the mirror. I could feel my strength fading, my vision blurred. I was losing consciousness. Just when I thought it was over, I saw it. A face in the mirror. It wasn't my own. It was the face of an old man. His eyes were wide with terror. He was trying to tell me something. He mouthed the words, "The mirrors, they're connected." And then he was gone. Section 6, a glimmer of hope. I woke with a gasp. I was lying on the floor of the mansion. The mirrors were gone. Had it all been a dream? I slowly got to my feet and staggered toward the window. As I looked out over the town, I saw them, the mirrors. They were in different buildings, reflecting the moonlight. The old man's words echoed in my mind. The mirrors, they're connected. Suddenly I knew what I had to do. I had to destroy them. Section 7, trapped. I raced through the town, following the moonlight that led me to each mirror. I shattered the first mirror with a rock. I watched as the pieces fell to the ground, the reflection within screaming. But as I turned to leave, I saw that the shards of glass were reforming, the reflection's screams turning into laughter. The second mirror was in the town hall. I smashed it, feeling a sense of urgency and dread, but as I did, I was pulled into the reflection. I found myself in a dark and twisted version of the town. The creatures from the mirror were there, their eyes glowing with malevolent hunger. Section 8, the revelation. I was surrounded. They circled me, their laughter echoing all around me. I closed my eyes, waiting for the inevitable, but then it stopped. I opened my eyes to see a figure standing before me. It was the old man from the mirror. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of sadness and pity. "You have to understand," he said, his voice raspy. "The mirrors, they reflect the darkness within us. They feed on our fears, our regrets." He was a prisoner here just like the others, trapped by his own reflection, his own darkness. Section 9, the escape. "But there is a way to break free," he continued. "You have to confront your reflection. You have to accept the darkness within you." He touched the surface of the mirror and it rippled like water. "Go," he urged, "and don't look back." I didn't hesitate. I ran towards the ripple and jumped through. I found myself back in the town hall, the shattered remains of the second mirror at my feet. I didn't waste any time. I ran toward the third mirror, the old man's words ringing in my ears. Section 10, the warning. This is where the story takes a darker turn, a moment that would forever be etched in my memory. The third mirror was in the church, mounted above the altar. It was an ancient relic, its surface marred by time, yet it held an eerie allure. I stood before it, my heart pounding in my chest. The air was thick with anticipation, and a sense of foreboding washed over me. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. The silence of the church was almost deafening, amplifying my every heartbeat. I opened my eyes and looked at my reflection. The dim light cast eerie shadows, making my reflection seem almost otherworldly. I saw all of my fears, all of my regrets staring back at me. It was as if the mirror had a life of its own, revealing the darkest corners of my soul. But I also saw my strength. I saw my determination. In that moment, I realized that the mirror was not just showing me my fears, but also my potential to overcome them. I raised my hand and touched the glass. It was cold to the touch, sending a shiver down my spine. I felt a surge of power, dark and cold, flow into me. It was as if the mirror was transferring its ancient energy into my very being, and then it was gone. The power, the darkness, it all vanished in an instant. The mirror was just a mirror. Its surface now reflected nothing but my own bewildered expression. The mansion, just a house. Its walls no longer whispered secrets. Its halls no longer echoed with unseen presences. But I would never forget the horrors I had seen. The images were burned into my mind, haunting my every thought. I would never forget the old man's warning. His words echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks within us all. The darkness is always there, lurking beneath the surface. It waits for moments of weakness, ready to pounce, waiting for us to let it in. And once it does, it consumes everything, leaving nothing but emptiness and despair in its wake.